Imagine it. The year is 1833. The recent vice president resigned around the same time that the president had threatened to execute him. This is the same vice president whose wife caused so much drama that Jackson ended up firing the entire cabinet, save one man. And that one man ended up being the replacement, or Jackson's vice president in his second term. Calhoun had it out for Van Buren as early as 2 years prior. That's when he used his executive privilege to break ties in the Senate to keep Martin Van Buren from an appointment he had been given. And that appointment was to be the foreign minister to England. In fact, he said to a friend, in reference to Van Buren not getting the appointment after all, is, "It will kill him dead, sir. Kill him dead. He will never kick, sir. Never kick." Essentially, Calhoun's intention was to destroy the career of Martin Van Buren. And as you could probably tell by the title of this episode, that whole stunt backfired. Whether it was because the drama was just that petty, or because Van Buren had already packed up, moved to England, and started fulfilling his role as minister before he found out, whichever it was, just like the Grinch's heart growing 3 sizes that day, so did the respect for Van Buren. Without even meaning to, Calhoun pretty much cleared the way for Van Buren to replace him as vice president. In just a matter of months, Jackson put together a national convention where he announced that Van Buren would be his vice presidential running mate for the next election. It also very much helped Van Buren that he was very supportive of Andrew Jackson's anti-bank stance. This is the same stance that created the bank war. And Van Buren wasn't necessarily a fan of how Jackson went about fulfilling his promise to dismantle the Second Bank of the United States. He was definitely not thrilled about Jackson withdrawing all the money from the bank, all the federal money from the bank, which caused its own drama. And if you want to know more about the bank war and everything that led up to it and the situations it caused, feel free to check out the episode about it. But essentially, Jackson kind of pushed this belief that the Second Bank of the United States was unconstitutional, and therefore he wanted to destroy it. Although it was proved in a number of different ways that there was precedent to have this bank, politics. Unlike the presidents who came before him, Jackson had a really good relationship with Van Buren, a close one. In fact, after he became vice president, he consulted him as his right-hand man more than probably any of the prior presidents had done with their vice presidents. In fact, many of the decisions going forward in Jackson's second term was made in consultation with his vice president, which is, different. Perhaps the fact that they were so interconnected during Jackson's second term was the reason that we just don't have a really good detailed list of things that Van Buren was part of or decisions that he made as vice president. Even in Van Buren's own autobiography, the focus is, which is like, over 800 pages. There's a lot of talk about his life before and as Secretary of State and as president, but there's just a lot of what he talks about as vice president is stuff that Jackson is noted for. So it's like his presidency overshadowed anything he did prior, so particularly being vice president. It all culminated to him being president. Up next, the only vice president voted in by the Senate via the 12th Amendment.